In the hushed corridors of Newman Enterprises, rumors erupted like wildfire when the unthinkable truth surfaced. Aristotle Dumas, the enigmatic figure who had woven his way through Genoa City's upper echelons, was none other than Cain Ashby, the once beloved husband of Lily Winters. The revelation sent shockwaves through every corner of the town, for Cain's supposed death had long been a cornerstone of Lily's grief, and his return under a new identity felt like betrayal incarnate. Yet beneath the surface of this seismic disclosure lay an even darker undercurrent. Cain was no lone wolf, but the centerpiece of a far-reaching conspiracy, and at his side stood a woman of unwavering resolve, moving unseen until the moment of her exposure. As steel meets flame, Genoa City braces itself for the fallout of this devastating ruse. From her first introduction into Victor Newman's orbit, Audra Charles had exhibited all the marks of an ambitious outsider eager to ingratiate herself with the town's most powerful patriarch. Whispers fluttered through social circles. Was Audra simply courting Kyle Abbott's attention by chance, or was there a deeper agenda at play? In hushed tones, observers speculated that she served as Cain's clandestine envoy, his eyes and ears within the very sanctum of Victor's empire. The notion that Audra might be Cain's new spouse added fuel to the gossip, for she appeared untroubled by any allegiance to her husband's old life and never hinted at any connection to Aristotle Dumas. Her seamless integration into Victor's charitable events and boardroom soirees painted her as a consummate social chameleon, but beneath her poised exterior lurked a mission that threatened to unravel the very threads of power that Victor had so meticulously woven. Audra's duplicity might have remained buried in the shadows had she not allowed her guard to slip one fateful night. Deep beneath the Spencer mansion, in a long-forgotten wine cellar turned clandestine meeting place, she rendezvoused with Cain, her voice barely above a whisper as they exchanged coded directives. It was here, surrounded by cobwebbed barrels and silent bottles, that her true allegiance was laid bare. Unbeknownst to her, Victor's surveillance network extended far beyond the showroom floor. Every crevice of his domain was mapped, every guest discreetly vetted. When security cameras captured her descent into the cellar's depths, and when her call logs betrayed an untraceable number, alarm bells rang in Victor's mind. He prided himself on leaving no stone unturned, no associate unchecked, and Audra's clandestine movements represented the first tangible crack in his ironclad rule. The question now seared through the Newman empire: how would Victor Newman mete out retribution to the woman who had deceived him so completely? In the realm of corporate warfare that he had perfected over decades, Victor favored punishment that cut deeper than mere dismissal. He might strip Audra of her newfound social standing, unveiling her treachery before high society and turning her into a pariah in the very circles she once commanded. Perhaps he would leverage her professional ambitions, revoking access to his endorsement and sponsorship, thereby isolating her from Genoa City's most lucrative ventures. Yet his most formidable weapon lay in psychological torment, public betrayal, whispered rumors of legal action, and the slow unveiling of evidence that her greatest asset, her reputation, could be shattered beyond repair. Victor's vengeance would align with his philosophy. Inflict precise, irrevocable damage, ensuring that Audra, and all who dared to cross him, learned the true cost of undermining Newman power. As the dust settles on this epical betrayal, the ripples extend far beyond Audra's fate. Lily Winters, struck by the ghost of her past, must now reconcile the husband she mourned with the phantom who betrayed her trust. Kyle Abbott finds his budding alliances complicated by the shadow of Cain's resurgence and Audra's duplicity, forcing him to choose between loyalty to his partner and the preservation of his family legacy. And Cain himself, revealed at last, stands poised to reclaim both his identity and his vendetta, but only if he can outmaneuver the man who sits at the pinnacle of Genoa City's hierarchy. In this high-stakes chess game of power, where every move invites a counter-move and every allegiance is provisional, one question looms above all others: when the final gambit is played, who will emerge victorious? And who will be cast aside in the unforgiving world of the young and the restless? In the grand tapestry of Genoa City's power plays, few gambits have been as audacious or as fraught with peril. As the alliance between Cain Ashby, reborn as the enigmatic Aristotle Dumas, and his astute, fiercely loyal wife, Audra Charles. Once cast aside and presumed dead, Kane resurfaced not as the grieving husband Lily Winters once knew, but as a self-made tycoon whose fortune had been stitched together through ruthless acumen and a singular obsession, the downfall of Victor Newman. Alone, he knew he lacked the subtlety and inside access necessary to topple the formidable empire Victor had painstakingly built. He needed a confidant, someone with the guile to slip beneath Newman Enterprises' glittering veneer, to map its vulnerabilities, and to feed him precisely calibrated intelligence when the moment for the final strike arrived. Audra, with her poised elegance and impeccable social radar, was the perfect instrument. From the very moment Audra stepped into Victor's world, gracing charity galas, private boardroom gatherings, and Newman family celebrations, she carried herself with the disarming confidence of a scion, never betraying the fact that she was, in truth, an operative on Kane's payroll. She cultivated an aura of genuine admiration for Newman Enterprises, woven through compliments on Victor's strategic genius and Nikki's philanthropic vision, all while taking meticulous mental notes on staff hierarchies, boardroom alliances, and the unspoken tensions simmering between Victor's children and his top executives. Every whispered conversation, every innocuous glance between Victor and his lieutenants, was filed away in Audra's mind as ammunition for the war Kane intended to wage. But Victor, ever the patriarch and ever vigilant, sensed the faintest disturbance in his meticulously ordered domain. He noticed the way Audra's eyes lingered on confidential documents when she thought herself unobserved. He detected the subtle quickening of her pulse when a senior executive inadvertently slipped a sensitive strategy into a passing comment. He recognized, too late, that her charming inquiries about Newman Enterprises' expansion plans were less the idle curiosity of an ambitious socialite than the probing of a seasoned corporate spy. Yet rather than confront her outright, risking panic and immediate flight, Victor resolved to let her continue under his watchful gaze. In his mind, it was far more valuable to learn what she truly sought than to scare her away with premature accusations. Meanwhile, Kane, operating from his shadowed stronghold beyond the city limits, awaited Audra's nightly transmissions with a mixture of impatience and dark satisfaction. Each coded message she relayed, disclosures of pending acquisitions, excerpts from private board minutes, the names of key holdouts among Victor's board of directors, drew Kane ever closer to the heart of the Newman Empire. He pored over every detail, constructing a surgical blueprint for Victor's undoing. Hostile takeover bids timed to coincide with shareholder voting cycles, discreet smear campaigns to undermine Victor's allies, clandestine offers of partnership to those most likely to defect. The plan was elegant in its complexity, yet it depended entirely on Audra's continued infiltration, and on Victor's chosen silence. At last, the moment of reckoning arrived. Victor, having untangled the web Audra had woven, orchestrated a confrontation that was as psychological as it was explosive. Under the guise of a private discussion about potential investment opportunities, he summoned Audra to his office late one evening. The door clicked shut behind her, and for the first time, she found herself standing alone in the lion's den, face to face with the master predator she had thought she could outmaneuver. Victor's expression was calm, almost bored, as he held up a folder embossed with his initials. Inside were photographs of Audra meeting clandestinely with an unrecognizable man in an abandoned warehouse, transcripts of her whispered phone calls to an anonymous number, and, most damningly, financial records showing large wire transfers from the Newman account to an offshore entity controlled by Kane Ashby. Audra's poise cracked for the first time. Her breath caught, and a single bead of sweat traced a line down her temple. She had expected to be discovered eventually. But not so soon, and not in such incontrovertible detail. Victor leaned forward, hands clasped, and fixed her with a stare so intense it seemed to penetrate every layer of her artifice. "You've been very busy, Miss Charles," he said coolly. "So busy, in fact, that you forgot I keep my own counsel and my own cameras." Rather than react with anger, Victor delivered his coup de grace with surgical precision. He offered Audra a perverse form of mercy, a choice. She could walk away, disappear quietly with a promise never to threaten Newman Enterprises again. If she surrendered every scrap of intelligence she had gathered, every contact she had recruited, and agreed to serve as his double agent, feeding Kane misinformation at critical junctures. Or she could refuse, and watch as Victor systematically dismantled the network she had built, exposing every accomplice, destroying every asset, and leaving Kane stranded without allies. It was the kind of choice only Victor Newman could offer, and only Victor Newman would accept. Audra swallowed hard. In that electric moment, she weighed loyalty to the husband she had pledged herself to against the desire to survive. She thought of Kane's steely gaze, the sacrifices they had made together, the promise of revenge that had bound them. But she also realized that Victor's mind was a labyrinth of traps from which there might be no escape. If she attempted to deceive Victor now, he would know, and when Victor Newman knows, the consequence is annihilation. Nevertheless, Audra was not one to yield easily. Gathering her composure, she met Victor's gaze with defiance. "If I tell you what you want, you're only delaying the inevitable," she whispered. "Kane and I have played on your underestimation of us for too long. You think I'm scared, but you taught me that fear is just another tool to be turned against an opponent." Victor's lips curled in a half-smile. "Perhaps," he replied, "but you forget, I taught you everything I know about power." Their standoff echoed through the silent corridors long after Audra had left, and Victor sat behind his darkened desk, pondering the next move. He had always known that to maintain dominion over Genoa City required more than brute force. It demanded the cold calculation of when to strike and when to bide one's time. By offering Audra a weaponized mercy, he had forced her hand, drawn out her true priorities, and placed her, and through her, Kane, squarely within his sphere of control. The true battle, however, was only just beginning. Once Audra returned to Kane's side, the ledger between the two titans would be balanced in ways no one could yet predict. Would Audra feed Victor the misinformation he craved, playing a dangerous game of double deceit? Could Kane trust the intelligence gleaned from the woman he loved, now under Victor's thumb? And, most crucially, when the final curtain fell, who would stand triumphant, and who would find themselves facing ruin? In the crucible of Genoa City's corporate warfare, where allegiances shift like quicksilver and every secret is a potential dagger, the struggle between Kane Ashby and Victor Newman has reached its most perilous apex. And at its center stands Audra Charles, wife, spy, survivor. The chessboard is set, the pieces are in motion, and the next move will define the destiny of them all. The city holds its breath, and waits for the next checkmate. Imagine the shock when the man we mourned as lost forever strolled back into our lives, not as the heartfelt husband Lily Winters once adored, but as the cold, calculating Aristotle Dumas. It wasn't a tribute to survival, it was the piece de resistance of a grand deception. Think about it. Kane Ashby, the prodigal son shamed and sent packing when his lies came to light, returned under the guise of a media-shy billionaire with a perfect resume and zero connection to his former life. He romanced Victor's board with lavish donations, dazzled Genoa City's social scene with philanthropic fanfare, and whispered promises of joint ventures so sweet they blinded even Victor Newman's seasoned instincts. Every handshake, every gala appearance, every business proposition was a masterstroke in the art of misdirection. But how did he pull it off? Start with his airtight backstory. Aristotle Dumas claimed roots in obscure European holdings, family ties to undisclosed trusts, and a personal vendetta against corporate bullies, namely, anyone who tyrannized smaller enterprises. His team of fabricated legal papers, staged family photos, and an impeccably coached accent left no room for doubt. He hired top-tier PR firms to sculpt his image as the down-to-earth philanthropist, peppered charity circles with insider rumors about Newman Enterprises' arrogance, and strategically leaked hints that Victor's empire was ripe for disruption. Meanwhile, he deployed Audra Charles as his eyes and ears, a woman who ascended Newman's social ladder with lethal grace, gathering boardroom whispers and financial projections like a seasoned intelligence agent. By the time whispers began about discrepancies, an overheard conversation in the cellar, a doctored file that didn't quite match Newman's records, it was already too late. Shareholders had been seduced by Dumas's $50 million rescue fund, key executives had been promised promotions in exchange for their loyalty, Victor's own children had been persuaded to consider alternative leadership structures. Kane's gambit was not simply to infiltrate Newman Enterprises but to fracture it from within, turning allies into liabilities and sowing doubt in every contract signature. Every thank you note delivered to Aunt Catherine, every congratulatory telegram to Nikki, every photo op with Nicholas and Victoria, all were carefully orchestrated distractions while Dumas's team siphoned off critical intel, seeded false reports of regulatory investigations, and braced for the moment of reckoning. And when that moment came, it detonated like a bomb. Board meetings descended into chaos as documents surfaced revealing that Dumas had quietly secured majority stakes in several shell companies that held liens on Newman assets. He had engineered forced votes that would have stripped Victor of control and handed the keys of Newman Enterprises directly to Kane's offshore trustees. Even as Victor sat at the head of the table, the ship was already half sunken. The only reason we're not trading Newman stock at rock-bottom prices today is the very public showdown that blew the con wide open, images of Audra skulking through the Spencer wine cellar, phone records linking her to a secret hotline, and a cache of wire transfers so blatant they couldn't be explained away as errors. Now, as the dust settles, Genoa City is left to pick up the pieces. Victor Newman, bruised but unbowed, has retreated behind closed doors, silently mapping the counterstrike that will leave Aristotle Dumas is bereft of funds, allies, and, most importantly, his carefully constructed facade. Lily Winters must grapple with the man she married now revealed as a merciless architect of betrayal. Kyle Abbott, Audra's unwitting paramour, finds himself questioning every late-night meeting and innocent compliment. And all of us, loyal viewers who hungered for the next twist, watch with bated breath as Victor, the ultimate survivor, prepares to remind Kane that in Genoa City, the Newman legacy is more than just a business, it is the last word in power.